She walked in like any other shopper, but what happened next left the boutique staff and their icy manager reeling. When the truth about her identity was revealed, the fallout wasn't just shocking, it was unforgettable. The boutique on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills wasn't just a store, it was a symbol of exclusivity. Gleaming glass doors framed by pristine white marble opened into a haven of luxury. Designer handbags lined the walls, sparkling jewelry glowed under spotlights, and elegant clothing racks held dresses priced higher than most people's monthly rent. This wasn't a place for casual browsing, at least not in Helena's eyes. As the boutique's manager, Helena had built her reputation on a simple principle: protect the brand. She ran a tight ship, no idle chatter among employees, no smudged counters, and absolutely no tolerance for people who didn't look like they belonged. Tall, with an immaculate bob haircut and a perfectly tailored pantsuit, Helena was the gatekeeper of this world. Exclusivity isn't just about price, she often reminded her team. It's about image. That particular Tuesday was no different. The store hummed quietly with soft classical music. Helena stood near the entrance, her sharp eyes scanning for anything out of place. Then the doors opened. A woman walked in, tall, poised, wearing oversized sunglasses and a simple cream coat. Her heels clicked softly against the marble floor as she glided through the store, her hand brushing lightly over a rack of silk scarves. Helena narrowed her gaze. This woman wasn't a regular. Something about her felt off. Maybe it was the understated outfit, or maybe just the way she lingered a bit too long at the jewelry case. Helena's instincts kicked in. She approached briskly, flashing a polite but cold smile. "Ma'am, we have a private shopping appointment scheduled shortly. I'm afraid I'll need to ask you to leave." The woman lowered her sunglasses, revealing piercing blue eyes that caught Helena off guard. A flicker of recognition crossed her mind. Had she seen this woman before? But she quickly dismissed the thought. "I assure you, I'll only be a moment," the woman said, her tone calm, even controlled. "I just wanted to look around." Helena stiffened. Her politeness disappeared. "I'm sorry, but this is a private establishment. If you'd like to book an appointment, we'd be happy to accommodate you another time." For a brief moment, the woman's expression remained unchanged. Then, without another word, she slid her sunglasses back on, turned on her heel, and walked out, her heels echoing as she left. Helena watched her go, a faint sense of satisfaction settling in. She had done her job, protected the brand, but something felt off. There was a quiet intensity in the woman's demeanor, as if she knew something Helena didn't. And Helena had no idea how much her actions would come back to haunt her. At first, Helena didn't think much about the incident. She'd seen it all: wannabe influencers flashing fake designer bags, curious tourists who didn't understand the by-appointment-only rule, even the occasional tabloid reporter fishing for a scoop. By afternoon, she was back to business, inspecting a new shipment of couture dresses, checking the lighting in the jewelry cases, ensuring every diamond sparkled just right. To her, the boutique was a stage, and she was the director. But later that evening, as she locked up the store, the image of the mysterious woman lingered. There was something about her, something poised, unshaken, as if she was used to being treated with deference. Helena had dismissed her without a second thought, but now she couldn't shake the feeling. Who was that woman? The answer came the next morning, and it hit like an earthquake. Helena had just arrived at work when her assistant manager rushed in, pale and breathless. "Did you see the news?" she asked, shoving a phone in Helena's hands. Helena frowned and took the phone. A headline flashed across the screen: "Hollywood icon snubbed on Rodeo Drive, and she has the last laugh." Helena's stomach dropped. She clicked the article. There, clear as day, was a photo of the woman from yesterday. Only this time, there was no mistaking her. She was one of the biggest actresses in Hollywood. Her face was everywhere, from blockbuster films to major brand campaigns. And the kicker? She owned one of the high-end brands the boutique carried. Helena's blood ran cold. The article recounted how the Oscar-winning actress had walked into a luxury boutique only to be dismissed by an overzealous manager. It ended with a cutting quote from the actress herself: "Exclusivity should be about quality, not about making people feel small." The comments section was already brutal. "Fire that manager. Imagine turning away someone who owns part of the store." Gatekeeping at its finest. Serves them right. Then came the final blow. A statement from the boutique's corporate office. We regret yesterday's incident and will be taking immediate action. Helena's hands trembled. She knew exactly what that meant. Her reign as the boutique's gatekeeper was over. As she sat down in her office, staring blankly at the article, she couldn't help but think of the woman's calm, knowing expression as she left. Helena had thought she was in control, but in the end, she had been the one who never saw it coming. This story is a reminder that true exclusivity isn't about shutting people out. It's about welcoming the right ones in. And sometimes the right one is the person you least expect. If this story made you think, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unforgettable moments. The following morning, Helena's routine began as usual. She arrived early, walking through the boutique to ensure everything was in its rightful place. Every handbag was perfectly displayed, every glass counter gleamed, and the soft scent of luxury lingered in the air. By mid-morning, however, whispers began to ripple through the staff. Sophia, a young sales associate, approached Helena hesitantly. "Did you hear about the woman from yesterday?" Sophia asked, her voice low but tinged with excitement. Helena raised an eyebrow. "What about her?" Sophia glanced around before leaning in. "One of the customers this morning said it was Melania Trump." Helena froze. Her hand gripped the edge of the counter as she stared at Sophia, the words sinking in like a stone in water. "Melania Trump?" she repeated, her tone skeptical. "Yes," Sophia said, nodding earnestly. "A customer showed me a picture on their phone. It was definitely her." Helena's mind raced. Could it be true? Had she, in her rigid adherence to protocol, just dismissed one of the most recognizable women in the world? A wave of unease swept over her, but she quickly masked it with her usual composure. "It doesn't matter who she was," she said briskly. "Rules are rules. We can't let just anyone wander in without an appointment." But deep down, she knew this wasn't just anyone. Word spread faster than Helena had anticipated. By the afternoon, the boutique buzzed with murmurs from both employees and customers alike. "She looked so elegant," a woman said while browsing the handbags. "I can't believe someone would treat her like that." "I heard she walked out without saying a word," another chimed in. "So classy, but you just know she was furious." Helena, overhearing bits of these conversations, felt a knot tightening in her stomach. The world of high fashion wasn't just about luxury, it thrived on reputation. A single misstep, especially one involving someone like Melania Trump, could tarnish a brand for years. That evening, as Helena scrolled through her phone, a chill swept over her. Social media had picked up the story. Someone, likely a customer, had posted a vague but damning account of the incident. A certain boutique manager just kicked out one of the most famous women in America. Classless behavior in a so-called luxury establishment. Though the post didn't name the boutique outright, the comments were buzzing with speculation. People tagged brands, asking for clarification. Some even claimed they knew exactly which store it was. Helena's chest tightened. She tossed her phone aside, muttering under her breath. People always overreact online. But for the first time in her career, she felt uncertain. The next day, her worst fears came true. A local news outlet picked up the story, running a short segment speculating on the boutique's identity. Though they didn't confirm it outright, the coverage was enough to send customers flocking, not just to shop, but to gossip. Near the handbag section, a woman in oversized sunglasses leaned toward her friend, whispering loudly, "This is the place, isn't it?" Helena, standing near the cashier counter, felt her mask of control begin to slip. Still, she held her ground. Melania wasn't coming back. Someone as prominent as her wouldn't bother revisiting the scene of an insult. Helena was sure of that, but she was wrong. It happened on a Friday afternoon, just as the boutique was at its busiest. The sunlit showroom bustled with well-dressed patrons browsing the racks, and sales associates moved swiftly to accommodate them. Helena stood near the cashier counter, exuding her usual air of authority. But then the glass door swung open, deliberately, forcefully. And in stepped the woman Helena had so quickly dismissed. Melania Trump. But this time, she wasn't alone. Behind her, two well-dressed men in tailored suits flanked her like silent sentinels. A third man carrying a clipboard followed closely behind. The entire boutique went silent. Helena felt her breath catch. Melania glided in effortlessly, her head high, her expression unrateable. There was no anger in her posture, only composure. She took her time, moving through the store with quiet confidence, her fingers brushing over designer handbags and delicate silk dresses. Customers watched in awe, their whispers now hushed. Helena swallowed hard, forcing a smile as she stepped forward. "Mrs. Trump, welcome back," she said, her voice just slightly uneven. Melania paused. Slowly, she turned to face Helena. Then, with the same grace and control she had displayed the first time, she spoke. "I hope your store is more welcoming today." The weight of the words was undeniable. Helena felt heat rise to her face, but she couldn't respond, not in a way that would undo the damage. Melania didn't wait for an answer. She turned to the man with the clipboard and spoke softly. "Let's begin." The man nodded and stepped forward, handing Helena a business card. She took it with trembling fingers, scanning the name. It belonged to Melania's personal shopping consultant. Her stomach dropped. This wasn't just a return visit. It was a statement. Melania wasn't just shopping. She was taking control. And every eye in the boutique was watching. In the world of luxury retail, first impressions matter. But sometimes the second chance is the one that counts the most. If this story made you think, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unforgettable moments. A small entourage followed her, a security detail in tailored suits, a woman holding a sleek leather briefcase, and another figure who appeared to be a publicist. Behind them, several photographers lingered just outside the entrance, their camera flashes igniting a frenzy. The quiet murmur of the boutique was replaced by gasps and a flurry of whispers. Melania Trump stood tall and poised, her expression unreadable. She wore a fitted black dress, simple yet commanding, paired with diamond jewelry that caught the light with every movement. Her presence was magnetic, pulling every pair of eyes in her direction. Helena's heart sank. A hot flush crept up her neck, her hands growing clammy as she locked eyes with Melania. For a moment that felt like an eternity, Melania simply stared at her. There was no anger in her gaze, no scorn, just an air of quiet control. And somehow that unnerved Helena more than any confrontation could have. Then, with the same measured grace she had exhibited before, Melania spoke. "Good afternoon," she said, her voice calm but firm. "I'd like to look around now. Is that allowed?" The question hung in the air, carrying a weight that was impossible to ignore. Employees froze. Customers whispered behind perfectly manicured hands, their curiosity barely contained. Helena's instincts screamed at her to say something, anything, to regain control of the situation, but no words came. Instead, she nodded stiffly, stepping aside to allow Melania access to the store she had so abruptly dismissed her from just days earlier. As Melania moved through the boutique, her entourage stayed close, observing every detail. She didn't rush. She examined each display, her fingers brushing over silk fabrics, her eyes pausing on price tags. To Helena, it felt less like shopping and more like an evaluation, as though Melania was taking note of every corner of the store and every misstep Helena had made. The tension in the boutique was palpable. Even the other customers treaded lightly, their movements more subdued, sensing that something bigger was unfolding. Helena, meanwhile, could feel her authority slipping away with every passing second. But the moment that would change everything was still yet to come. The atmosphere became electric, a mix of suspense and anticipation. Customers pretended to browse, but their ears were tuned in. Employees stood at attention, unsure of what to do, but unwilling to be caught slacking. Helena, for her part, tried to blend into the background, but it was impossible. Melania's presence had turned the spotlight directly onto her. Then, Melania approached the jewelry case. Her gaze swept the display before pausing at an elaborate diamond necklace. She glanced at Clara, a junior employee nearby. "May I see this piece?" Melania asked, her tone polite but laced with authority. Clara, fidgeting nervously, retrieved the necklace and placed it on the counter. "Of course, ma'am." Melania studied it for a moment, then turned slightly, and then she did something no one expected. She looked directly at Helena. "What do you think?" Helena stiffened. The question had caught her off guard. She stammered, struggling to find her voice. "It's a beautiful piece, one of our finest." Her words felt hollow, even to herself. Melania nodded slowly, then turned back to Clara. "I'll take it." She slid her black credit card across the counter with an air of effortless certainty. As Clara completed the transaction, Melania turned back to Helena. Her expression remained calm, almost serene. But her next words cut through the room like a knife. It's important, don't you think, to treat everyone with respect, especially when you don't know who they are. The store fell silent. Every eye was on Helena, who felt as though the ground might give way beneath her feet. She struggled to form a response, but Melania didn't wait for one. Instead, she gestured to her publicist, who handed her a small envelope. Melania held it out to Helena. "This is for your staff." Helena hesitated before taking it. Inside was a handwritten note and a substantial donation to be split among the boutique's employees. Not as a reward, as a lesson. Melania didn't gloat. She didn't lash out. She didn't even raise her voice. Instead, she had done something far more powerful. She had gracefully taught a lesson that Helena and the entire store would never forget. With that, Melania gave one final nod, turned on her heel, and walked out. The store remained frozen in stunned silence long after she was gone. In the world of luxury retail, appearances can be deceiving. Helena had thought she was protecting the brand, but Melania had shown her what true class really meant. Because elegance isn't just about what you wear. It's about how you treat people, even when you think no one is watching. Helena hesitated before taking the envelope. It was heavier than she expected, and when she opened it later, she would discover that it contained a check for an astonishing amount, meant to be divided among the employees. It was an act of generosity that contrasted starkly with the quiet reprimand she had just received. But Melania wasn't finished. She turned to Clara, who was still holding the diamond necklace, and offered her a warm smile. "Thank you for your help today. You've been wonderful." With that, she turned toward the door, her entourage falling into step behind her. Outside, photographers sprang into action, their cameras flashing, capturing every moment of her departure. Inside, the boutique remained silent. Customers whispered among themselves. Employees exchanged stunned glances. Helena stood frozen, her mind racing. She had underestimated this woman once, but the lesson she had just learned would be impossible to forget. The boutique remained eerily quiet long after Melania had left. Customers trickled out, many with purchases in hand, but all with stories they couldn't wait to share. Behind the counter, employees spoke in hushed voices, still processing the event that had just unfolded. Helena stood near the jewelry case, her face pale, hands trembling slightly as she stared at the envelope Melania had handed her. She turned on her heel and retreated to her office, closing the door behind her. With shaking hands, she pulled out the check and stared at the number written on it. It was more than she had expected, enough to provide a significant bonus to every employee. A gesture of kindness that only magnified the weight of Helena's mistake. She placed the check on her desk, her thoughts spiraling. Helena had prided herself on her professionalism and judgment, but today, her own biases had been laid bare. She had dismissed someone based on assumptions, never stopping to consider who they might be or what they deserved. Her mantra of "protect the brand" suddenly felt hollow when weighed against the consequences of her actions. Replaying the scene in her mind, a new realization took hold. The boutique wasn't just about exclusivity or luxury, it was about experience. And the experience she had offered to Melania had been one of rejection, not respect. A deep pang of shame settled in her chest. She had not only damaged her own reputation, but had also put the store's reputation at risk. The knock on her door startled her. She looked up to see Clara standing hesitantly in the doorway. "Are you okay?" Clara asked softly. Helena nodded, though her throat felt tight. "I'm fine," she managed to say. But Clara didn't leave. "You know," Clara began, her voice tentative, "she wasn't angry. I mean, not really. It felt like she wanted to make a point, not humiliate anyone." Helena met Clara's gaze and saw no judgment there, just a quiet understanding. It was a small kindness, but it brought Helena back to reality. She wasn't beyond redemption, but she needed to change. She needed to be better. Taking a deep breath, Helena gave Clara a small nod. "Thank you, Clara," she said, her voice more sincere than it had been in a long time. "And thank you for being everything I wasn't today." Clara smiled faintly before slipping out of the office. Helena leaned back in her chair, the check still in her hands, and made a decision. It was time to rebuild. Not just her own image, but the trust she had so carelessly risked. The following morning, Helena arrived at the boutique earlier than usual. The air outside was crisp, and the sun had just begun to bathe the streets in a golden glow. She stood at the entrance for a moment, taking a deep breath, then unlocked the doors. Today, things would be different. Her first order of business was gathering the staff for a meeting. As employees filed in, they exchanged curious glances. Clara, Sophia, and the others watched Helena closely, sensing something different in her demeanor. Helena stood before them, her expression serious but open. She took a deep breath. "I owe all of you an apology," she began, her voice steady but laced with emotion. The room fell silent. No one had expected this. Helena continued, "Yesterday, I made a mistake. Not just with Melania Trump, but with how I've been running this store. I let rules take precedence over kindness. I let assumptions guide my decisions instead of people." A few employees exchanged glances, but no one interrupted. This boutique is built on luxury, but luxury means nothing without respect, and I failed to show that yesterday. She paused, glancing around the room. Melania Trump left us with more than just a lesson. She left us with an opportunity to be better, to treat people with the dignity they deserve, regardless of their appearance, status, or whether they have an appointment. The employees nodded, their expressions softening. Helena took one final deep breath. Starting today, things will change, not just for me, but for all of us. A moment of silence passed before Clara stepped forward and smiled. "I think that's a great place to start." Helena returned the smile, feeling something she hadn't in a long time, a sense of purpose, and as she looked around the room, she knew this wasn't just about Melania Trump anymore. It was about building something real, something that would last. In the world of luxury retail, first impressions matter, but sometimes the second chance is the one that counts the most. If this story made you think, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unforgettable moments. Helena took a deep breath, steadying herself as she addressed the room. "Yesterday, I let my assumptions cloud my judgment. I treated someone unfairly, and in doing so, I let all of you down. That's not the kind of leader I want to be, and it's not the kind of example I want to set." The room fell silent, the weight of her words settling over her employees. She continued, her voice steady but sincere. "We have an opportunity to learn from this. Respect and kindness shouldn't depend on who someone is or who we think they are. That's a lesson I needed to relearn, and I hope we can all carry it forward." With that, she placed the envelope Melania had given her on the table. "This check is for all of you. It's a testament to how well you handled yesterday, despite my shortcomings. You deserve this." A ripple of surprise and gratitude moved through the staff. Clara, the employee who had been at the center of it all, spoke up. "Thank you, Helena. I think we all learned something yesterday." Helena nodded, feeling a sense of relief. She wasn't perfect, far from it, but she was taking steps to make amends. The boutique wasn't just a store, it was a reflection of the people who worked there, and from that day forward, Helena vowed to ensure it reflected the values of respect, inclusivity, and grace. As the boutique filled with customers, Helena observed them with fresh eyes. She no longer saw them as mere visitors, but as individuals with stories, worth, and dignity. Every interaction became an opportunity to demonstrate the lessons she had learned. In the days that followed, news of Melania's visit faded from the headlines, replaced by new stories. But for Helena and her staff, the impact remained. The encounter had been a turning point, a reminder of the importance of humility and second chances. In a world quick to judge, they had learned the value of choosing kindness instead. Life presents moments that test our character. This story reminds us to approach every person with respect and compassion, no matter who they are. Assumptions lead to mistakes, but owning up to them and learning from them is what truly defines us. If this story resonated with you, consider how you might show kindness in your own life. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that inspire reflection and growth.